The first time you walked through a fog gate in Dark Souls, nobody told you what was on the other side. You just walked through anyway. And there it was. Something massive, something ancient, a being that had no logical reason to lose to you. A hollow, a nobody, a corpse that hadn't figured out it was supposed to stay dead. Most people died. Immediately. And then they came back and died again. 5,000 miles away, in a completely different medium. Three kids looked up at something that had just ended their world and felt that exact same feeling underneath the fear. Not the instinct to run, the instinct to move forward anyway. Today we're asking why. Why do these two stories, one a Japanese anime, one a From Software action RPG, hit that same specific nerve that almost nothing else touches? What are they actually saying about us? The answer isn't about power, it's about ambition. And most stories get ambition completely wrong. I want to talk about a show called Wise Man's Grandchild. The premise is simple. A man dies, gets reincarnated in a fantasy world, and is raised by legendary heroes. He grows up with modern knowledge, creates magic that nobody can counter, and becomes a literal prodigy who effortlessly defeats demons that threaten entire kingdoms. He's essentially unbeatable before the story even starts. Now, I actually enjoy Wise Man's Grandchild for what it is. You want a short, fun, low-stakes power fantasy, it delivers that. But critically, it has no tension, no real ambition, and episode 12 shows you exactly why. The other mages are at their absolute limit. One of the major fighters has been blasted through a wall. The demonoids are winning. Everything is falling apart. And then Shin shows up. He sees the situation. He creates an impenetrable force field they literally can't break through. And at the end, everyone is safe. The demonoids get obliterated. Problem solved. Now here's the thing. None of that is Shin being ambitious. That's Shin being convenient. He didn't face impossible odds. He didn't choose to risk something. He just arrived and applied power that was never genuinely threatened. The tension in that episode belonged to every character except him. He doesn't have ambition. He just is. Same thing with the Godzilla 2014 game. You stomp through cities, you crush military forces without thinking. There's no depth, no decision making. No moment where you genuinely don't know if you're going to make it. You win because you're Godzilla. That's the whole game. And here's what's interesting. In Dark Souls, you also win every boss fight canonically. You don't lose the story, same as Shin, same as Godzilla. The chosen undead defeats every lord, but Dark Souls never, not once, makes you feel unstoppable. So what's the difference? In Dark Souls, you're not fighting monsters, you're fighting gods. The bosses aren't obstacles placed in your path. They're civilizations. They're beings who reignited the first flame, who built the kingdoms you're walking through. When you stand before Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, you're standing before the man who shaped the entire Age of Fire. Every crumbling wall, every hollow wandering the ruins, every dead knight, all of it is the wreckage of his legacy. And now you, a hollow, someone NPCs actively mock, someone the world has written off, are supposed to defeat him. The game communicates one thing from the very beginning. You probably shouldn't be here. Attack on Titan does the same thing through history instead of lore. The Titans aren't just large, they're ancient. Humanity has been losing to them for over 100 years, before Aaron's story even begins. When the Survey Corps rides beyond the walls, they're not riding towards victory. They're riding towards a casualty rate that would make any rational person quit. The show doesn't flinch from that. The characters you care about die. Not dramatically, suddenly, casually, like the Titans barely notice. Because to the Titans, they're nothing more than ants. And this is the first thing both stories understand, that Wise Man's Grandchild and Godzilla completely miss. The enemy has to feel genuinely, truly unbeatable, or the decision to fight means nothing. The odds are fair. Bravery is just strategy. Only when the odds are impossible does moving forward become something more. Here's what nobody talks about with Dark Souls. You don't have to keep playing. Nobody forces you through the fog gate. The game never promises you'll win. In fact, everything about it, the enemy placement, the brutality of every death, the NPCs who've already given up, communicates that failure is the natural outcome. And you sit at the bonfire, and you stand up, and you walk toward the gate anyway. And that moment, that specific, quiet moment of choosing to continue when continuation is irrational. That's what Dark Souls is really about. Not the combat, not the lore, not the bosses. Don't go hollow. That's the entire point of the game. Hollowing isn't just a mechanic. It's what happens when you stop choosing to move forward, when the odds finally break you, and you give up on your purpose. Every hollow wandering Lordran, that's a person who stopped walking through the gate. The game isn't asking you to be powerful, it's asking you one question, over and over. Will you go hollow? Will you quit? Will the weight of what's ahead be enough to make you stop being who you are? And the answer, every time you stand up from that bonfire, is no. Attack on Titan makes that same choice visible through its characters. When you graduate training and choose the Survey Corps, you're not choosing to be a hero, you're choosing to be forgotten. You're choosing a life expectancy measured in months. You're giving your heart fully to something that will probably crush it. Most people didn't make that choice, and the show never judges them for it. It understands why you want it, which makes the ones who do so even more compelling. There's one moment where Eren sees a soldier about to be eaten, and he doesn't calculate. He doesn't weigh the odds. He jumps into the Titan's mouth to pull that person out. He loses his arm. He gets swallowed. He dies. Or should have. If he didn't have the Titan powers he didn't even know about yet, he would have been gone. That's not a hero being heroic. That's a person moving forward into genuine death because he couldn't live with himself if he didn't. Compare that to Shin arriving at the battle in Wise Man's grandchild. There was never a moment where he might die. The show didn't even pretend. He showed up, applied power, left victorious. With Eren, you're watching and thinking, run, don't do this, go back. And he does it anyway, and that difference is everything. If you love this kind of story breakdown, the kind that actually gets into why certain stories hit different, subscribe, because I have a major announcement coming soon that I think you're going to want to be here for. Alright, back to it. Ambition isn't going after something you're guaranteed to win because you're stronger, smarter, or more powerful than everyone else. That's not ambition, that's just ability. Real ambition is wanting something so deeply, so completely, that you're willing to walk into the unknown to get it. The refusal to turn back when everything in the world is telling you that you should. Dark Souls and Attack on Titan shows you what it looks like when a character or a player has every reason to quit, and chooses not to. The chosen undead is Mott, called Hollow, told their mission is pointless, and they cross every fog gate anyway. Eren watches his mother get eaten, loses an arm, gets swallowed alive, invites his hand, and stands back up anyway. Not because winning is guaranteed, because not trying is worse than dying. That's what these stories understand about us, because they're not showing us power, they're showing us something we recognize. Something we felt every time we stood in front of something we didn't know we could beat and moved toward it anyway. Ambition isn't certainty, it's the choice to move forward into the unknown, and the fog gate is always there. The question is whether you walk through it.